Around for your team in terms of winning one-score games. Can you identify factors for what's allowed you to go from what was happening, say, in 2021, 2022 to what's been happening over the last season and a half?
No, I think it's gone in ebbs and flows. I think when you look back to probably 17, 18, and probably 2020, we were really, really good in one-score games. I think the reality, fortunate or unfortunate, the life we live here, there's a lot of one-score games. So you're always going to live that. That's just how it goes. And the reality of it is the better we've been fundamentally and detailed enough to, win those games. And obviously there's been some tough moments where, we've been right there and couldn't make the play or weren't detailed enough in the moment to make the play. So I really don't. I think it really, I know I say this all the time, but we are in a world here at Iowa State that you're not getting, the human erasers that are just going to erase, let you play C football and win games. We're going to have to always play close to A football, and our detail's going to have to be spot on to win football games.
Matt, is that why you've made toughness such a theme this year? Because it seems like those traits are the types of traits that allow you to shine in those moments.
Yeah, I think at least understanding who we are and being here now long enough to understand what it is and what it's always going to be and what's going to allow us to win those games. I think having the knowledge that we've been through of seasons and, what it was going to take and what it's going to take for us to be our best, that value system is still at the utmost. And I think as our world changes around us, the value of, are you tough enough to do what it takes every single day to come in here and go to work, to be your best, and to ask 18 to 22-year-olds to do it since July, to do it till the end of January. That's a lot. And, it's exhausting, and so is greatness. And so I think for us, the ability to be mentally and physically tough enough to stay the course to do it, I think that's a great challenge. And so, you're getting everybody's best shot. You're always, I think you've heard every other team's press conferences before they've played us, and it's a big game, and you're going to get their best shot, and it is what it is. But, we've earned the right to have that happen to us, and we've also earned the right to grow our own selves to be our best for those moments and those opportunities.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about Tyler Moore, a guy who's been here a long time, gone through some adversity with injuries, but has really stepped up, especially this past game at Arkansas State.
Yeah, what a great story for us. He's been through so much, just physically almost. I think, 3 seasons have been cut short by a season-ending injury. I jokingly say this, you go watch Tyler practice and you're almost like, he's as tired as I feel, at some days, physically just exhausted. And yet when the snap and the whistle, between the whistle and the snap, man, that kid gives you everything you got every single day. And to watch him have some moments where that paid off on Saturday, it was really huge. He was incredibly productive. We probably don't win the football game if Tyler doesn't play the way he played for us last Saturday. And that's what team does. When somebody's down, the next guy's got to step up. And, watching what he's done when he has been injured, the spirit that he served our football team, the leader he's been, when things haven't gone his way, what I really appreciate about him, he's been the ultimate teammate. He's been the guy that has, as disappointing and as frustrating as some of those injuries have been, he's been the guy picking everybody else up. So you're not totally shocked when his number got called last Saturday. Man, he picked us up with his game. And it was great to see him healthy, great to see him out there making great plays for us for sure.
The news just broke about Gundy's firing at Oklahoma State. I know he was one that you really looked up to and like a mentor in this job. What are your thoughts on that news?
Yeah, we're just in such a crazy time. It's obviously disappointing, and you think the world of what he's been about. Obviously, what he did at Oklahoma State was exceptional and probably be really hard to replicate. And unfortunately we live in a world where the value of that sometimes is short-lived, and we're quick to forget how powerful and how impactful he really was on that community. So I think the world of Coach Gundy, and just really grateful for everything he's done for me for sure.
And then coming out of the bye week, how's the team's overall health, and you able to get some guys?
We get a lot of guys back, which is really big for us. I think we were really dinged up. I think think really everybody that you would ask me about is looks like we'll be back. The only guy that's probably not back this week is Kyle. I think the one thing positive for us with Kyle is it's not going to be a long-term situation, but it's, the reality of it is to be able to get Gabe back, to get Willich back, to get John Klosterman back. I think those are huge. Aiden Flora back. I think all those things will really help our football team, and those guys are really good football players that we need to step into a powerful role and continue to move ourselves forward. I think the positive is so many guys, even last Saturday, got great reps, meaningful plays, and we got to evaluate who those guys were, and then even move into the bye week and continue to pour some great reps to our football team.
Who will be your kicker on Saturday?
Yeah, Chase has been, he's kicked already a bunch this year. So, I think he's had he's kicked off 2 games, right? Didn't he kick off the whole South Dakota game? He kicked off the whole game last week, kicked off against Iowa. And then, he's been the point scorer and some extra points. So got a lot of confidence in him. And again, he's done a great job when his numbers gotten called and really been a great surprise for us. I thought he had a great fall camp. So have a lot of confidence in him.
Athletic guy, played some quarterback
did a lot. Yeah. So I think that mentality, and we've talked about that at times, sometimes those specialists, and I think those guys that have been, all sport players, it's been great because I think it gives those guys great confidence to go in and do their job. And he's got that kind of mentality for us, and we got a lot of belief in him.
Does not having Kyle does it change your decision making in terms of the analytics and where you're comfortable with?
Yeah, I think it all depends. I think a lot of it still is on weather, and I don't know how much that really changes who we are or what we're about. I think again, there's a lot of confidence from myself and our staff on what Chase can do. So, I think that's probably a lot of that is more ebb and flow of the game a little bit than it is maybe so much of what those guys can do. I think the great thing is Chase has showed to be very consistent when he's been in, and he's been able to do a really great job for us so far.
Matt, Noah Fafita's mobility, what kind of stress does that cause a defense, and what do you have to make sure you do to keep him contained?
Yeah, boy, I feel like we've gotten a lot of athletic quarterbacks so far this year, and I think you guys have seen it as well as I have. It stresses the defense in every way, shape, and form. I think what you've seen from this young man is just a great confidence. Now year 2 in this system, year 3 is the starter. Boy, is he confident. He's confident where he's going with the football. He's got elite arm strength. He's got the ability to make all the throws, which is uber impressive. And yes, he is mobile, but he's also confident enough to step up in the pocket and make the big throws over the middle. And that's what's really impressive about him. So I think he not only does he challenge you with his feet, but he's got really elite arm talent. He's got the ability to make all the throws in great precision, and he's got some real talented skill players on the outside that deliver the football too.
What is Kyle's injury and timeline?
Yeah, I think that it's more of a leg injury in terms of a strain than it is anything else. And I really think it's more week to week right now. I think we're certainly excited about that it's not a long-term deal, and I think he's excited. He's having a great year, but one of those situations we'll just go week to week with.
And is Jace Gilbert out with an injury?
Jace was. He got hurt in the South Dakota game after the first kickoff, so he'll be out. Hopefully we get him back by the end of the football season.
What did you feel like this was a productive bye week for you guys, or what were the goals?
Boy, I did. I thought it was a huge bye week. I think just, when you have the collection of 4 game data of where are you, what are you doing well, what are you not doing well. I think we played a lot of football players in those first 4 football games, so guys also had videotape evidence of themselves, and to be able to collect that, really sit down on Sunday and Monday, do a great job of where's our gaps, where do we got to get better, and then really had great practices. I thought Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, really physical football practices, which I thought we needed. And then the opportunity to kind of take a breath there on Friday and get our kids back Sunday ready to go. So, I think a lot of emphasis was on ourselves, and then as we got into the weekend moving towards Arizona.
Now you were the longest coach in the Big 12. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, boy, it doesn't sound like it's a good thing to be, So who knows? Who knows? What else?
How do you feel like your team got better during the bye week?
Well, I don't know if we'll know until Saturday, to be honest with you. I think that's think the hard part about having a bye week is the rhythm that you gain or lose by going into a bye week. And I think there's a maturity, and I'll throw the word toughness out again, that you have to kind of regain that momentum going into game week. And so I think this is be another great test. I know I've said this, 70% of Power 5 football teams lose coming out of the bye. And I think it's a real challenge because it's a mental toughness to continue to pound away at your habits and stay in that great routine that it takes to have a great Tuesday, great Wednesday, a great Thursday to go play the game on Saturday. So, I think the biggest thing you hope that you improved on is some of the fundamental things that, when you have 4 games and you kind of get tired along the way, some of those fundamentals and details can go by the wayside. You hope that we were able to kind of regain that. I saw that happen, in a positive way. And then now you got to get yourself ready to get yourself back into game week. And, you got a great team coming in here, a team that's undefeated, that's going to challenge you in every way. And, how do you show your growth from where you were the last time you were on the game field to the next time you're on a game field? So I'm excited for that challenge.
Wide receiver Xavier Townsend had a big catch in the fourth quarter at Arkansas State. How have you seen him and Chase Sowell continue to kind of make their influence within the offense?
I just think the biggest thing is their health. I think not being healthy all fall camp was a real challenge for them to get in rhythm, let alone learn a new offense and be in a new system. And so I just think those guys continuing to gain. I almost felt like by the end of that Arkansas State game, you were kind of at the end of fall camp for what, really Xavier and Chase was. That's a 4-week block that, was really kind of like their fall camp. So I think for them, what a great opportunity for them to step away. What did I do well? What did we do well? How do I get better? And then, for Rocco and those guys to really go to work on some of their rhythm. I think the big thing for Xavier, you felt like visually you saw him get better every single game that he's played over a 4-week period. I think Chase has really showed up in some really positive ways as well during that block. And, I think if you go back to, the last time when we had Jaden, it was really game 5 and 6 that it really took for him to kind of step into the offense and be successful. I think it was that Oklahoma game and TCU game where he really kind of came out. So, I just think there's a time and a growth period, and especially when you lose so much of fall camp, that's really hard. So I think you see those guys continue to fundamentally get better and feel comfortable in the offense for sure.
In your observation, when it comes to newcomers learning the offense, what has been the biggest hurdle for them? Is it the offense complex to learn, or is it something else?
Yeah, no, I think any offense probably has its own complexities to it, but I think the reality in different than when we had Jaden, there's a lot of really good players on this offense, so the ball can't just go to one guy. I think the reality of all of it looks like, man, does your number get called? And when it does get called, are you going to be ready to make the play? And, I think that's the great thing that you've seen from X. His number got called a couple times on Saturday. The coverage dictated him being open, and he was able to make some huge plays when it came open. I think Chase has had a couple of those moments in the last 2 games and made some really good plays as well. And so, I just think that's probably the fun thing about us. I know I said this, and I think I'll probably be a broken record on this. I mean, I think every game offensively, my guess is there's going to be new guys step up, because I just think the coverage, man, where the ball goes is going to be based on, what coverages and what defense come their way. And, I think one of Rocco's great strengths is delivering the football to where the defense is allowing the ball to go. And I think he's certainly grown immensely in that asset.
You listed a bunch of players that you're optimistic that will be back on Saturday. Is John Tez also part of that list, though? What's his status?
Yeah, John Tez was good Saturday. He kind of dinged up his foot. It was a bruise. We just didn't feel like we were in a position to put him back in the game. We didn't know exactly what it was, but he'll be fine. He's totally fine. Practiced all last week, so not injured.
Matt, last year, mobile quarterbacks kind of gave this defense some fits from time to time. You've already played a handful this year. Yeah. Where have you seen the most progression in the way they've been able to handle mobile quarterbacks this year?
Well, I think at times we've done a good job, and at times we haven't so far. I think that's, and I don't know if it's just this defense. I think that's the challenge with a mobile quarterback. I think the thing that mobile quarterbacks do is, that gives the offense it allows you to equate hats in the run game. And, in the pass game, you better have great precision and detail in your rush lanes, because I think, man, an inch off against a really mobile quarterback, they can make you pay. So not only are you playing pass defense, but quickly you're going to have to transition into run defense. So, I think that's a challenge for any defense in the country, and certainly has been a challenge at times for us when we've had great discipline in how we address who's got the quarterback in our run game, and certainly our ability to navigate pass rush lanes. We've been really at our best, and when we've been off, those guys can make you pay, and that certainly happened to us. We'll have to have great discipline. We'll have to have great detail on Saturday for sure.
Coach, I know the roster limits got overruled this summer, but to have 2 kicker injuries in the first 5 weeks, how vital is it to keep the rosters where they are now to ensure a third kicker?
Boy, I mean, it's, and I said this before the season, I think that's the hard thing in college football. You're asking all these teams to play a lot of games, right? In the NFL, there's a roster limit, but you can also add guys at all times, right? And so I think it is going to be vital. I mean, I think at some point, could you get to where we're fortunate we got Chase? I mean, Chase is a damn good kicker, and we're fortunate to have him. But, you can imagine if you didn't have that situation, what a tough situation you could be in. And will that happen to some teams? I'm sure. I just think that's the nature of our business. You're dealing with, college 18 to 22-year-olds that are growing physically, and, injuries are going to happen. You can't control that. So I think that is probably the one thing I was scared about when you said you're going to have a 105-man roster limit and not be able to replace anybody in your roster. Nobody still made sense of that rule to me, but I get it. What do I know? But the reality of that situation is I think it can be certainly really challenging for sure. Oh, buddy, can you kick? Can you come? I don't put you on the roster. All right, I'm going to check on that. So that's a great question.
Obviously, Kyle was put in the unique situation after Jace's injury of having to do kickoffs. What kind of strain does that put on a kicker's body, having to handle more things with something that he maybe wasn't expecting to do, or any strain on the body at all?
I think minimal. I mean, most kickers in football do multiple things. I think we're probably the only school in America that would ever have somebody do one thing. So the reality of it is most kickers are doing both, and we're punting and kickoff, or point scorer and kickoff. So I don't think that really had much to do with it. He had been dealing with a lot here over the course of the last month, and we've tried to really do a great job, be smart. And again, I think that's why you saw Chase really. That's not really true. Those guys were splitting the reps of the kickoff. Both those guys did, really both games. So, yeah, it's part of the deal. I think both those guys, and especially when you talk roster limits today, boy, those guys are going to have to be multifaceted in terms of what they do for a football team, for sure.